to New Life Live with host and founder of New Life Ministries, Stephen Arterburn. New Life Live is dedicated to transforming lives one at a time thanks to the giving hearts of you, our listeners. Our goal is to provide you with wisdom from God's Word to give you hope and help in life's hardest places. If you have a question you'd like to ask today, our phone lines are open. Call 1-800-229-3000. That number again is 1-800-229-3000. Now here's Steve.
Welcome to New Life Live. This is Chris Williams in the studio for Steve Arterburn, and I'm really excited because in the studio with me, I have two doctors, Dr. Sheri Keffer.
Hey, good to be with you. It's kind of like a doctor sandwich. You're in the middle,
yes.
right?
It might be bologna,
No.
I'm just saying,
Well, I'm the rye bread then on this side.
And Dr. Alice Benton. And we're going to be in the studio for a couple hours today. So give us a call. We'd love to take your call, 1-800-229-3000. Again, that's 1-800-229-3000. And again, we'll be in here today for 2 lovely hours. But here's what I'm thinking about today, guys. It's sort of like the last push of summer, and we're getting ready to go back to school. And it seems a little early, because we're just coming to the end of July. But sort of the school year for us marks, obviously, the beginning of a new season. But one of the things that I see, that is common, is just seasons. Obviously, it's natural, but in Scripture, we see, especially in Ecclesiastes, there's a season for everything. But what happens so many times in our life is we get stuck in one season and we can't make it to the next season. So in that transition, how do you guys help people, or maybe help me? How do I transition from one phase of life to another phase of life, or when summer ends and fall begins and everything changes? How do I work through those changes in life?
2 things come to mind for me, which do not come to me easily in my own personal life, I'll say, which is actively grieving when it's a difficult season or there's loss in what we're moving towards, and celebrating and savoring the good that we have. I can be too quick to push into the next one, to start planning for what's ahead. So right now, my husband and I are looking at a 3-day weekend that we can take to savor this last month of summer with our kids, when it's easy for me to fall into, oh, great, the kids will be back in school, let's get ready for it. But we're going to actively try to savor the ending of this season.
That's good.
It's really good.
Yeah.
And what's kind of wacky about California is, we have seasons, but we don't. There's not the changes like we typically see in other parts of the country. But in that, this is my thought, is sometimes when you go in to do the deeper work, the deeper healing, you start working with somebody, and sometimes you lose heart because you don't really think you've changed a whole lot.
Yeah.
But when I reflect back on what that person looked like the first day I met them in my office, or the first time I was in a group, and over time you see the changes, stopping to look back and remembering where you started is so encouraging, because you do change. If you're willing to show up and you're willing to invest, you're willing to get in a group, you're willing to do your individual work, you do change, even though you might not see those incremental changes like the seasons in California. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we have a God that asks us to do that. And so many times in the Bible, he talks about celebrating, remembering, talk about the stories, talk about the history, because it's good for us, and we're designed to work better when we do it that way.
Yes. And I would add to that, one of the things that's helpful is that new seasons can come with a lot of uncertainty. And so having hope, having a redemptive hope, and that's what we're about here today, is providing hope in life's toughest and darkest places. And so if you're finding yourself in a transition in life, maybe it's the ending of an important relationship, job, something like that, and you need help finding your way into a new season, give us a call. Or if you have anything else, give us a call. Again, we're going to be in the studio for a couple hours today. That's 1-800-229-3000. And I got a couple of great people here loaded up, ready to help you. And so we'll go right to the phones when we get back.
For most of my life I've been dealing with an opiate addiction.
Why is opioid addiction quickly becoming one of our nation's biggest killers? Maybe it's because it isn't only those who are addicted who are in denial.
We did what I see so many parents do, is it can't be an addiction. There's something medically wrong.
It's impossible to solve a problem when you don't know what you're up against, and families will try to find any explanation except the one that will put them on the right path.
Alcoholism and drug addiction is a family disease. It doesn't affect just the individual.
If someone you love is abusing painkillers, know what you're up against. It's time to admit it's addiction and seek treatment. Call us today at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We have Christ-centered partner treatment centers around the country. Call 1-800-639-5433 or visit us online at newlife.com.
We just made a decision. We will do whatever it takes.
1-800-NEW-LIFE. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back to New Life Live. Chris Williams sitting in the studio today for Steve Arterburn. Again, I have Dr. Alice Benton and Dr. Sheri Keffer with me today. We are ready to take your calls. Let's go to Cassandra in Los Angeles, California, listening online. Cassandra, are you there?
Yes, I am.
How can we help you today?
Well, I'm calling in. I have a grown daughter, and periodically we will fall back into patterns from teenage years where she's quite angry and upset about something that I have said to her, whether I've said it in jest or whether I'm serious. And it tends to, at this stage, it tends to make me withdraw. And so I'm trying to figure out how to get over, around, through, under, and done with this type of arguing. It's not really arguing. It's just she needs to state why she doesn't like what I said. She needs to make sure that I treat her the way she wants me to treat her. But there's no reciprocity. There's no way I could go back to her and say, well, here's some things that I don't like, and I would like you to do A, B, C, D. She would not be able to receive that.
Yeah. So there is this communication struggle that you guys have had that has created a lot of hurt feelings and divide in the relationship. And Cassandra, you're not feeling like, hey, she can come to me and she can dump on me, but I can't reply with what some of your struggles in the relationship or in the communication are, right?
Right. I never have since she was a teenager. I'm pretty strong authoritarian type figure, and I know that. So I've had to like dial back a lot, because she has been the one to tell me that I need to dial back, and that's been fine. And I'm a Christian, and I want to have good relationships, godly relationships. So that's been fine, but periodically it just pops up again, and I'm usually caught way off guard because what I've said is generally something that's a joke, but it is something that I think is a problem if she doesn't correct it.
Yeah.
So I try to use humor in order to help her see it, but we don't have the same sense of humor.
Yeah, well, and it sounds like what you don't have is a sense of safety to talk about hard things in the relationship. Yeah.
True.
Yeah, Sheri, what do you think?
Well, and you know what I'm wondering about, Cassandra, is with that strong authoritative way that you are, you might not even realize how much energy that you push forward, how much intensity comes out with the way you're bringing it. And I think when we don't realize that we've got that, we don't realize we might be overwhelming people with that intensity, with that directness. So I would have you look at two things. One is that. The other, and you've been real clear with us to say this a few times, is this idea of joking. And I think sometimes people tend to minimize joking as criticism or a way to try to get something across to somebody else without having to be kindly, gently connecting and bring your truth. So we'll say it in a joking way or say something, but it's hurtful to the other person. And so I think your daughter is doing her best job to try to hold space for herself in the room with you, to try to push back. And at the same time, you're trying to navigate, well, how do I actually talk to her without overwhelming her or having her push back? But she's pushing back because she experiences you as somewhat pushy. Pushy with jokes, pushy with your intensity, pushy with your opinions. And that can feel overwhelming to a human being.
Yes, I can see that.
Yeah, which I love that you're open. Your heart is open to even hearing from us. So sometimes with folks like you, what I do is I say this. I say, what would it look like if you were go to your daughter and you were to create more of a nest, an invitation, a conversation that's more like safety, like I'm wondering what you might think about this. Right? It's inquiry, it's curiosity. It's not coming to her with your lists or things or opinions. It's just wondering about her heart. What do you think, Alice?
Well, in that conversation, Cassandra, I would encourage you to ask your daughter to work with you in equipping both of you how to go forward better with this. And by that, I mean talking about how you talk to each other outside of the problematic conversation. So before it happens the next time. And you might say to her, I notice that my jokes, my words, they rub you wrong. They even hurt you sometimes. When I have a concern for you, daughter, how can I better express it to you? What kind of phrase would you like me to use that would let you know I've got a concern and I want to bring it up in a better way? Ask your daughter how she would prefer you to speak to her. And then I want you to think about a phrase you might be better able to receive from her. So you might say, when my words rub you wrong, if you could tell me, Mom, I'm a little hurt right now. Could we talk about it? Then I'm more receptive to you. But you'll have to figure out together what phrases would work better to be a little flag to one another. Whoa, something just happened here. How can we get ourselves back on track?
Did you hear that, Cassandra? And so
yes, I do.
Yeah, so it's not talking about the issue, it's talking about how you communicate.
It's talking about talking.
Yes.
And it's really owning it with her and saying, you know what? I care so much about you. I actually called a radio show and asked them about what I was doing, and they basically told me that I wasn't approaching you in the right way, and I want to own that with you. I want to say I'm so sorry. I haven't done a good job at that. And so in light of what Alice said, and then ask her, how can I do that better with you? And just watch her. She'll probably soften a little bit. She might not trust you yet, because you've got to show her over time that you're more safe in your words. And
the principles there are both humility and vulnerability, and we don't respect. Oftentimes I don't respect, especially the closer the relationship, how powerful those are. And so humble is saying, hey, I'm owning my stuff. Vulnerable is tell me about how it impacts you. And what I hear in this, Cassandra, is you're telling me something that I hear from couples quite a bit, and that you and your daughter have established a core pattern. And Mylan talks a lot about this, and that's what I'm going to send you, how we love. Even though it's for marriages, I'm going to say, hey, this is going to work out between you and your daughter, is that you've developed an unhealthy way of communicating with each other, and you're trying to find a new way to communicate with each other.
It's a great resource.
Oh, I'll give you an example phrase, Cassandra, you might try with her. When my husband and I disconnect, when we've hurt each other unintentionally, that's what we say. I feel a little disconnected right now. Can we talk about what just happened so we can reconnect with each other? Those are soft words that lower the intensity and help us talk about the hurt. Yeah.
And one of the things I always appreciate that you put in there, Alice, is that making sure that the intention or the purpose is set. I love you. I care for you. And here is what I want. I want a closer relationship.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
We love your openness. We love your willingness, and we're excited to see.
Oh, I'm just, the desire for a close relationship as of this moment is a little one-sided.
Yeah.
So she would, I don't live in the States, so I visit once a year or maybe twice a year. That is totally enough for her.
Cassandra, if you make this attempt that we're describing to you and then you continue to practice and offer it, even if she rejects it the first few times, I bet you will begin to see a difference as she's able to lower her guard with you.
I hope so.
Yeah.
And I'm calling in and I'm discussing this because it just happened most recently last week. However, it's probably been about a year and a half, 2 years since it occurred before.
Well,
so I have to say it's not something that happens all the time now, but it happened all the time as a teenager until she was about 22 or 23.
Well, having conversations and having an ability to talk in a safe place is really, really important. So, Cassandra, what we're going to do is we're going to send you a copy of How We Love by Milan and Kay Yurkovich. Obviously, it's put in the context of a couple, but it works for really any relationship that we find ourselves in. So I encourage you to dive into that and to put those things into practice, even encouraging your daughter to maybe let her know, hey, I'm going through this. I'd love for you to go through it as well. And so, Cassandra, thank you so much for calling in today. And yeah, the really, really important issues in our life that we want to connect well with our children, with those closest to us. And I love her humility. So with that, well, let's go to Mark in Kalamazoo, Michigan, listening on Siri XM. Mark, are you there?
Yeah.
Mark, how are you doing today?
Hello?
Hey, can you hear me?
Oh, I'm doing good.
Good.
Yeah, yep.
Good. How can we help you?
Yeah, my son and my daughter-in-law, they've been married 7 years. 2 wonderful grandkids, 2 kids, all. But she's got a domineering attitude towards him, or dominating. He's getting fed up with her spending money because every time I sat there and babysat the kids one time, and there's like 3 different delivery trucks come up with packages. And then she just, my son talked to me. He says, I feel like a single dad. She really doesn't. I know she does, but she doesn't show it.
Yeah. Because
everything is clean, picked up from the kids, toys, everything. Floor swept, dishes done, everything. And I'm just don't know how to help him.
What has he done? What steps has he taken to address this issue?
Well, he's had a heart-to-heart with her.
Yeah.
And I don't know how that went. But she's just, I don't know,
but she's after his heart-to-heart, she's been non-responsive to him. She hasn't, responded well. The pattern or her behavior continues?
I think it continues.
Yeah. Yeah. And what have you told him, or what feedback have you given to your son?
I told him, I says, just keep doing what you're doing. You're respecting her, you're loving her in the same process. And I'm lost.
Yeah.
I'm lost.
Yeah.
And I don't blame you for being lost. It can feel overwhelming, Mark, when someone that we love is being knowingly or unknowingly hurt by somebody else. But I think the greatest challenge that I'm hearing from both you and your son, I think you guys are trying to fix her rather than trying to understand what's going on underneath her domineering behavior. You're seeing it on the surface.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, you're seeing it on the surface. But I can appreciate your counsel. Keep doing the same thing, keep respecting her, but that's still not getting to her heart. Right? And so it creates kind of a crazy making in his world as he's trying to appease her instead of trying to understand and having him begin to share about what's going on in his heart.
Well, I do know, because he talked to me about this, that her mom 2 years ago passed away from cirrhosis of the liver at 52.
Okay. Yeah.
And she's having a hard time.
Of course she is.
dealing with that. And she, I think she's lashing out.
And did her mom have a drinking problem?
Yeah.
Yeah. So she's showing up in the world with some of that wounding from her history.
Right.
So, Mark, I think one of the best ways you could help your son is encouraging him to become more curious about his wife and expressing to her that he's concerned about how she's feeling and how she's doing, and that he wants to hear what's distressing her, what's causing her fear. And if he can do that in a gentle listening mode, he may be able to draw out some of the things that are roots to this behavior that's disruptive and difficult for the family. But getting to her heart is going to be key.
Well, Mark, we're going to...
Yeah, he is so gentle and listening.
Yeah,
so gentle.
Mark, we're going to go to a break, and we'll come back right after this.
God pulled me out of the gutter of my life that I was living in.
I have done a lot of work over the last 40 years. This is the first time I've ever felt love.
I've had such a wonderful weekend here, and for the first time in a long time, I've felt at home.
And the Lord has set me free from my mother's story about me not being good enough.
The New Life Finding Freedom Workshop is coming to Dallas, Texas, September 20th to the 22nd.
We're going to talk about forgiveness and codependency. We're going to understand that family of origin, the unhealthy reactions to it. We're going to talk about the cycle of shame and surrender and developing the plan that moves us forward. There'll be 8 teaching sessions and 6 small group sessions.
To register or to learn more about the Finding Freedom Workshop, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433 or online at newlife.com.
I am living a new life, and I believe that I have the resources and tools to continue that.
Hi, this is Steve Arterburn, and for 30 years, New Life has been the most trusted name in Christian counseling.
Your ministry has saved my life.
If you struggle with emotional hurt, family or marriage problems, the pit of depression, or the pain of addictions, we can help.
I'm down 100 pounds now from what I was.
You guys are awesome. You are a blessing to America.
Our treatment programs provide clinically appropriate solutions from licensed professionals, all in a biblical framework.
I have had problems with alcohol. I think God has ordained this place to be His.
You don't have to be a prisoner of your pain. Help is available at 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
She tells me that I'm a new man, and I feel like a new man.
It worked for me, and it can work for them too.
This time it is different.
If you're ready to take the first step toward genuine spiritual and emotional healing, please call us today at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. God can open the door to a better tomorrow right now. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433.
We'd love to hear from you. If you have a question or a comment, call toll-free 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back, New Life family. Chris Williams in the studio for Steve Arterburn. Again, I'm here with Dr. Alice Benton and Dr. Sheri Keffer. And we would love to take your phone calls. If you have something you want to talk to us about, call in 1-800-229-3000. Again, we're going to be here this hour and one more. And so we're going to try to get to as many calls as we can. So give us a call. But right now we're talking with Mark. And Mark, you have your son in a difficult marriage. You're saying your daughter-in-law is domineering. Could you give us an example of how she's domineering?
She doesn't really appreciate, or she puts him down.
Like she's
something that he's done. Critical.
Critical. Okay. Yeah.
But he's the type. He's like me. He don't want any confrontation.
Yeah, he avoids it. Yeah, so he doesn't want to escalate and make it worse. Yeah.
Right.
And Mark, is
very laid back.
Is her overspending, is it putting them into financial danger? Is it to that extent?
No.
Okay.
Not that I know of.
So this is what I think is going on with her. So one, she's grown up in a home where there's been addiction. Right, where a parent has
her parents were divorced.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Her grandma pretty much raised her, and her funny thing is, her grandma's the same way as she is. She's just, can't say loudly boisterous, but domineering.
Okay, so this is what happens, and it happens generationally in these homes, is when you're not seen or heard because somebody is acting out with alcohol, you're invisible and you feel out of control. You don't feel seen, you don't feel heard, you don't feel known, and you don't feel power. That's one of the biggest things. You feel powerless growing up in an addicted family. And so, interestingly enough, it's a very painful way of trying to get power, but when she criticizes your husband, it's kind of a quick fix that is very hurtful. It's in a reactive way of trying to hold on to her power by powering up over him. It doesn't really help her heart. It doesn't make her feel safer. It doesn't allow her to heal, and it doesn't help her connect with her husband better. But it's a way, when I would see those kind of behaviors, and I often say, your behavior's telling on you.
It's a release.
Yeah,
it's a release.
That's right.
I think you're right, Mark. I think the release, she's numbing out through shopping. So that's another thing we do. We numb out through purchasing because she doesn't want to have to feel the feelings of loss and grief and being out of control about losing a mom to cancer, right, or liver cirrhosis. So I get it. Your son is feeling powerless and he's passive, but he needs to step in actively to get them both in to sit with somebody to talk about her fear, to talk about her anxiety, to talk about her loss, and to talk about his helplessness over knowing what to do to make her feel safer.
And I want to give you three ideas, 3 steps, Mark, that your son could take, and the therapist, if he's willing to go in to see someone, could help with this, but he could also try this on his own. It's important for us to ask for appreciation and encouragement from our spouses. And I don't think we tend to do this often enough. But it would be good for your son to tell her, I really want to hear back from you what I'm doing well as a husband. When you build me up like that, it helps me to be an even better husband and a better father to our kids. So I want him to ask for appreciation. And then if your son...
He's an awesome husband or awesome father. Oh my gosh.
And he doesn't hear enough of that from her. So the other piece to help with a criticizing spouse, when the one being criticized says, I've got some time right now and I want to hear about one problem from you, one thing that you find to be difficult between the two of us, but I can only hear about one and I want to take about 10 minutes or so to talk about this. When he sets the limits, but he also invites her to discuss a problem, it really tends to put her in a more comfortable position and she's better able to express it in a less critical, domineering way. But it's also important that he set the limits to protect himself, his heart, and the time. So if she gets too loud, if she gets too angry, I can hear about this when we can both talk about it in a calm way. It's good to limit that as well.
And I would add one more thing to what Alice said, is I think it's important that your son share with her how much it hurts her heart, his heart, when she criticizes him.
Yeah.
Because sometimes when the criticizer is doing that, they don't really think that you're getting hurt because you, especially for pleasers, they just kind of roll with it.
Yeah.
But as soon as they say, ouch, that hurt, it really hurts me when you talk to me that way.
Yeah.
And come vulnerably, all of a sudden there's a bit of a, I thought you were, like steel and you couldn't be hurt. But we all are hurt when people criticize.
Well, I think,
my oldest daughter even said to me, so he doesn't stand up for himself.
Yeah.
Well, that's and that really is a serious issue on his part, is learning how to set boundaries, learning how to bring his own respect to the relationship. But one of the things I wanted to send you out is, we've already done it once today, we're on a roll here, is how we love. They are in a core pattern that is really harmful to the marriage, but there's a way out of it. There's also our intimacy and marriage workshop. It's coming up October 25th.
That would be awesome
that would
for
be
them.
Magical for them.
Yeah.
But getting into couples counseling, and one of the things is we can't make her touch her pain, and she's afraid of it, but she needs to. But in creating greater,
she needs to face it.
Yeah. Well, we're up against the break here again, but Mark, thank you so much for calling in. We're going to send you out How We Love.
My wife had found me out through my past and my sexual addiction since I was a small child. It really gave me the opportunity to start digging into my past, start digging into my childhood, figure out what was causing me to feel the way I was feeling. Every Man's Battle will really give you that opportunity because all the guys there in that room are there for the exact same reason you're there. I don't want to be the reason that my kids are going to counseling. I don't want to be the reason that they begin to struggle with the same issues that I'm struggling with, and I've got to put an end to this. Yes, you can be different. God does love you. You can be forgiven for this, and there's a way out of this. But you have to acknowledge that you have to change and that there's a problem.
If you're struggling, call us. There are people on the other end of the line who want to hear from you, who want to help you. We don't want you to hand down something to another generation that just looks like pain and destruction. You can hand down redemption, but you got to take that first step. Just give us a call. It's 1-800-639-5433. It's 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
Hi, this is Steve Arterburn, and for 30 years, New Life has been the most trusted name in Christian counseling.
I'm an addict, and I'm trying to get God in my life again. You seem to be able to get to the crux of a problem quickly.
Our Christ-centered treatment programs can help you break free to embrace all that God has for you and your family.
I just want to thank you guys for bringing me to a relationship with Jesus.
There really is help for marital problems, depression, addictions, panic attacks, and feelings of hopelessness.
I came back with so many tools to help me prepare myself to fight this struggle and this battle that I have every day.
You can start living again today, living the life God intended for you. Help is available at 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
They did care, and they did follow up very lovingly, and it made all the difference in my life.
Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Someone who cares is waiting at the other end of the phone. God can open the door to a better tomorrow right now. Just call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. 1-800-639-5433.
We're glad you joined us for New Life Live. To be a part of the program, call 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back to New Life Live. Chris Williams in the studio for Steve Arterburn. And right now, we have the president. You love it when I say that. Larry, give us an update. How are we doing?
Well, we're doing pretty well. Thank you. I want to first off thank our listeners. We made a challenge 1st of June that by July 31 we wanted them to come step forward and match $324,000 that was made by a group of donors right then. Well, you folks have matched as of this morning, and today is the last day of the match, $368,700 or $44,700 over the match.
Wow.
So now the pressure is on us because I committed that we would find someone to match the overmatch. And I say the pressure's on us. I put it out to God and said, God, you're a faithful God. I believe that you will honor this because you get the glory. I mean, this is amazing. God gets the glory. He brought the $324,000 in. He's bringing more. So I just wanted to give that report. So thank you, everybody, for that. That's amazing. I wanted just to remind you why we want your support, and I wanted to just read to you a little testimony. And I love this because it's generational, and we've had several generational things come in. And here's what I mean. This lady writes, my youngest son just turned 41 this week, and I remembered calling you about him when he was 18 to 19 years old, asking what to do as he was getting into drugs. Dr. Stoop answered, gave me good advice. Now this young man is very successful tech expert, happily married. He's buying a new home. I just want to say thanks. You make a difference by what you do. You're in my prayers that God will always supply your needs as you reach many more people.
Wow.
So if you could support a ministry that reaches out, touches people, helps people know what to do when there's a crisis or when problems come up, and it makes a difference. And we see a mom who called because her son was in trouble and got good advice, and the son's life turned around, and that's a generational change. Had his life turned around, you can imagine what his kids would be like in dealing with. So thank you, God, for that. Thank you, everybody, for your support. Thank you three for making the difference and touching people's hearts and minds.
Well, thank you, Larry, for everything you do to keep the lights on and keep the vehicle moving forward. One more thing. The last day of July,
Yep.
there was this great book, phenomenal book called People Fuel.
That's right.
If you contribute a gift of any kind,
That's right.
this is the last day to do it, to get included in that gift People Fuel.
Right.
So,
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Larry, how close are we to matching the overage of what people have given?
I haven't started on that yet.
Oh,
That's the challenge.
I don't want to start on that till this was done.
Okay.
So this will be done tomorrow morning. I'll get on the phone and if anybody listening out there wants to participate in the overmatch, call me tomorrow. Write us tomorrow. Let me know this is for the overmatch.
And you can also call in 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
Absolutely.
1-800-NEW-LIFE is the number. That's not just the number to help contribute. You can also do that online. But if you need resources, you need a book that we offer, you need a counselor to connect to, again, that number is 1-800-NEW-LIFE. To call into the show, it's 1-800-229-3000. And so with that, we are going right back to the phones. Let's talk to Jane in Louisville, Kentucky. Jane, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Now, okay, really quickly, Jane. I always say Louisville, Kentucky, but y'all say it different. How do you? It's like with marbles in your mouth. How do you say it?
I'm a transplant, but it said Louisville.
Louisville, yeah. Okay, excellent. How can we help you today?
So I'm calling about my brother. He is 27. It's sort of the typical failure to launch. He lives with my parents. He plays a lot of video games. I think that he's gotten to the point where he's addicted to the video games. Mm-hmm. He does not have any other addictions. He does also have a wife and a daughter who's almost 2. So the situation has become that he is unemployed, and he has been for several months. Prior to that, he had a paper route, and he quit that because they wouldn't give him vacation time actually to come and see me. So he's now here, and he has absolutely no motivation to do anything. He stays home with his daughter during the day, but he really, I hate to say it, he does a poor job of taking care of her. He has no interest in helping around the house or in finding a job.
So Jane, Jane, let me jump in here really quickly. So if I fed back to you this picture, okay, there is this person, this guy, and he plays video games all day, avoids his responsibility, had a paper route, but he quit it because he couldn't go out and play with his friends. How old are we talking about here?
12.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
yeah. So, I mean, he, anyway, I think he obviously needs help.
Yes.
He doesn't recognize that. I try to talk to him about it. His wife, my parents try to talk to him about it.
Well,
but
what's the question for us? How can we help you in this?
Yeah. So, I guess, is there a way to force him to get help, or like how do you help somebody to change when they don't want to change, or is that even possible?
Well, I'll throw out a couple things here, and then I'll have my co-host jump in here. But really, the reason why I feed back to you this picture is because I want you to see it for the crisis it is. It is a huge problem. That is not going away anytime soon. And what your brother has brilliantly done, as most addicts do, is build a phenomenal system of enabling to support him in his behavior, to support him in his escapism into video games. And it is a very, very nasty or strong addiction. And so the first thing that has to happen is everyone who supports him has to look in the mirror and ask themselves, how am I contributing to his problem? What am I doing that allows him to keep this pattern of behavior going?
Sure.
Right? And so, like, again, we can't change him necessarily, but we can change what we do around him or with him.
I think he's got a good gig going on. I mean, think about it. He doesn't have to get up in the morning. He just plays video games. I mean, I would love that life. But Chris is right on it. It's really, there's a problem behind the problem. And the problem is there are two parents that are paying his rent. There are two parents that are feeding him. There are two parents that are making it really comfortable for him to behave in a 12-year-old sort of way. And so nothing, absolutely nothing will change, Jane, if your parents don't change. Nothing.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, so they're the problem behind the problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's the people that have the
I've
leverage.
seen that for years. Yeah.
And the people that have the leverage, including his wife, are the ones that have the greatest power to influence him to accept help by limiting the resources that they're willing to share with him. So the best bet is for the family to join together to try to love him better. Because as much as we're joking about, well, wouldn't that be fun to live that life? Your concern, of course, is this is not healthy for anybody that this is going on. And this is not calling them into the men and women that God created them to be. So I would highly recommend a meeting between you, your parents, and his wife to talk about the concerns and to strategize. Are we willing to limit the resources in order to call him up into the father and the husband that he needs to be? Because that's where the power to love him better will be.
Well, and a lot of times, you're right, Alice, a lot of times what happens is that family member holds everybody else hostage.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's usually a weak link. It might be that, well, maybe when he was a certain age, he tried to take his life, or he threatened to take his life, or something happened that has scared everybody from drawing that proverbial line in the sand and saying, you've got 90 days to get a job, figure out your life, or you're going to be out.
Yeah.
Right? And 90 days, 60 days, whatever you guys decide, but that you've got to find the weakest link in the family. Because if you're not able to stand behind that boundary, then he's not going to get better. He's going to just keep doing what he's doing.
Yeah, and Jane, really underneath this, fear drives everything, and fear makes terrible decisions. But what I want you to do is that you have power here, and it's you make it your problem. Here is my problem that I am no longer going to contribute to. And here's what I like. If he needs to get into counseling, if he needs to get into maybe a life coach, but what we're going to do is we're going to send you a copy of Take Your Life Back. It fits perfectly into this situation here. And if you can check out Finding Freedom, which is a great conference to really uncover that, it'd be helpful. But we will come back right after this.
I came into this thinking that my husband was the cause of many of our issues.
The New Life Intimacy and Marriage Workshop is coming to Columbus, Ohio, October 25th to the 27th.
But after learning about our attachment styles, I understood how our past hurts were playing into our present problems.
Join Steve Arterburn.
It's been a dream of mine for a long time to help people to grow more intimately together, and we believe that everybody has room to grow in the intimacy level of their life.
And Milan and Kay Yurkovich.
We help couples understand how their attachment style is sabotaging their current relationship, and then we teach them how to create comfort in a relationship.
To register or to find out more, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433, or go to newlife.com.
Here at this workshop, we had our first ever conversation without yelling, blaming, and accusing.
1-800-NEW-LIFE.
Last year, after Every Man's Battle, I was so moved by the transformation that I saw, not only in myself, but in the guys in our small group and the other people that were there and the stories that I heard, that I decided to go ahead and join Club New Life as a contributor to that.
You can help New Life Live stay on the air by joining Club New Life today. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433.
You guys are doing God's work here. You're restoring marriages. You're giving people hope. It's just been such a blessing to me, and I just wanted to encourage you all, when you see something good that God's doing, just jump on that and help support that.
Support Club New Life, and together we can help hurting people find help and hope in life's hardest places. Call 1-800-639-5433.
Give your support to them if you can, and just help them do what God's doing here in the world.
Call 1-800-639-5433 to join Club New Life today. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
Welcome back to New Life Live. Again, Chris Williams sitting in for Steve Arterburn, and we're talking with Jane and her.
I had one more thought. So John Townsend wrote this amazing book called The Entitlement Cure. And whenever we see families like this where somebody is entitled, and doesn't matter whether it's video games or whatever, it's a great book for their parents. So, Jane, I would have you get Entitlement Cure, give it to your mom and dad, because it's a way of helping them see how they're playing into bad behavior.
Yes, absolutely. Jane, thank you again for calling in. And let's go to Alex in Gaylord, Michigan. Alex, are you there?
Hey, how you doing today?
Good. How are you doing?
Hi, guys. How you doing today?
Good.
Great. Glad you're there. Thank you for having the program and being supportive to people.
Oh, we love it. So tell us how we can help you today.
Well, I'll be as brief as possible, not with a long explanation. My question is not about divorce and remarriage, but I'll just get to the point. I'm divorced. I'm remarried. My kids are older, are married. They have children of their own. My son actually has toddlers. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. My ex-wife is disabled. She's overweight. She's diabetic. She's not properly taking care of herself. She can't make it to the bathroom with an easy task, right? My son's wife called me today and said, look, he wants to move his mom in with us. And I'm like, you guys make your own decision on this. I'll pray with you about it. But I think that would probably not be a practical situation, considering that you've got a 2-year-old, you got one on the way that's going to be arriving at your home in the next month or so. And then they started asking me, well, she's not willing to take responsibility for herself. And what if it came down to where we had to get power of attorney to force her to do that? Well, I don't know how to feel about this, in expressing my opinion, because for one, I'm divorced. Now, that doesn't mean I don't care for her.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean I want anything bad to happen to her, but I'm like, how do I help my kids when I don't feel like I have any right, saying anything?
Well,
I'm divorced,
Alex, let me jump in there.
Right.
You're your kid's father, right? And you
right.
and you were married to their mom, right?
Yes.
Why did you tell yourself you don't have a right?
Well, I'll keep it real sweet and simple. I'm not very happy about the circumstances. We have also an adult disabled child that wasn't properly being taken care of. And whenever I would try to say, we are going to change things around here, the conditions are unsanitary, I would tell my wife, hey, I am going to bring somebody in here, and we're going to get this turned around, because God was giving me convictions about it, all right? Well, I shamefully to say my behavior wasn't appropriate, and for 26 years of dealing with a long battle with my wife, not necessarily being in the condition that I just described, but most of our marriage life being dysfunctional.
Yeah.
I gave up, and I broke down, and I walked out of the marriage.
Okay. So let me jump in, because we're going to be up against the clock really quickly here. So,
yes.
So what is the question that you have for us today?
How can I help my kids and give them the best advice that I can in dealing with their mom and they're willing to listen to me, right?
Well, yeah. Well, let
but
me.
At the same time, I'm dealing with this guilt of, you know what?
So let me jump in. So
I have no business.
Yeah, Alex, you have told yourself a false message. You're holding guilt, probably a little bit of shame underneath that because you've made this mistake or because you've done this, that you no longer get to have an opinion, that you no longer get to have a voice. So as I hand this over, the first thing I want you to do is you've got to get your voice back. You've got to work on that guilt. You've got to work through that the lingering shame you may be carrying from the end of the marriage.
It sounds like this. Guilt sounds like I'm a failure. I left wrongly.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of, I did the best I could. I was married to someone who was not taking care of themselves. It's like being with a sinkhole. And she not only we were not caring for our child in the best way. And I had to get out to save my life. That's the difference, is I did my best, but we can't change another person. I think the reason you're really concerned about this is you lived it. You lived it, and you don't want your kids to replicate that same thing. And I'm not saying this in negativity about your former wife, but I'm hearing a lot of victimhood there.
Yeah.
And so if she's in a victim place, she wants people to take her in. She wants people to take responsibility for her, but that's not going to help her heal. So I say you have got to define some boundaries around what she would be willing to do. And if she's not willing to do anything, y'all might have to call Adult Protective Services and have them check in with her.
Yeah.
So
That's
that
good,
she
Sheri.
has to have a social worker and somebody coming out who is going to be helping her face why she's not taking care of herself well.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that conversation, Alex, can include assessing the limited resources of the family and what everybody is willing to do to pool together if necessary to honor her, but not enable her. Because biblically we have to honor, but it's not good to enable. And I think that was part of why you left originally, out of self-protection.
Yes.
So continue to involve God in prayer, because as you discuss this as a family and you invite God into that conversation, He will show you the next steps to take moving forward.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So Alex.
Thank you. I appreciate your advice. That's really great advice. And, you hit it right on. And it really resonated with my spirit.
Good.
And thank you very much. And my kids, they're like, Dad, what should we do? And I'm like, well, I can't personally force her to do anything. You can't personally force her to do anything to be responsible. But, we can't just sit back and ignore. And I know that we all love her and we want the best for her, but, it's like, okay, Lord, help us.
Yeah, absolutely. So Alex, we are up against the clock, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you, this is a little bit different resource than what I was originally thinking about. I'm going to send you People Fuel. And the reason for this is it gives us a clear understanding of the types of relationships that drain us and take away from us versus the types of relationships that give or provide energy and fuel and vitality. And you'll start seeing some of the patterns in here in the relationship where your ex-wife continues to drain. And so continue on that, find your voice, speak up. Your job is important and they need to hear from you. And Alex, again, thank you so much for calling in. Couple things as we finish up the show here today. Every Man's Battle, August 9th in Sacramento. Again, if you are struggling in this area of sexual brokenness, if you're a man in that, do not waste time. Get in it. Find the help that you need. Finding Freedom, September 20th in Dallas, Texas. And again, stuck in an area of your life, you need a breakthrough. Finding Freedom is your place. Thanks for being with us. If you're on the phone, hang on. We have one more show to go. And have a great and blessed day. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks for listening. We hope this program has helped you by giving you insights for handling the challenges you face in your life. We want you to know that we're here for you, but you also need to know that New Life Live is a listener-supported ministry. To make your donation or to get any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433, or write to us at New Life Ministries, P.O. Box 1029, Lake Forest, California, 92609. Please join us again tomorrow for New Life Live.